guys? Welcome back to the channel. We're up here at RPM Motorsports today working on Nick's truck, and what we were doing is we are installing a manual transmission. So not a lot of people have done this. Nick is kind of working through this as he goes, finding parts that work, parts from Mexico actually. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but I'm going to kind of give you a brief overview of what he's doing today, and then once the process is finished, we'll take a look at everything installed, the shifter boot, the steering column, the clutch pedal, all that kind of stuff, and we might even get to take it for a spin. Broken axles all day. So this is the clutch that Nick is using. It's from Carolina Clutch. It is basically an LS7 clutch with a little bit lighter flywheel. We're going to be putting this on the truck first after he gets the pilot bearing installed. And this is the transmission that he's using. This is a Tremec Magnum. It's a 6-speed transmission, and it's going to bolt right up and fit like it's meant to be in there. So under the truck, which you may or may not be able to see, he's already mocked it up and had it in here, modified his cross member a little bit, and we have the hole in the floor for the shift handle. Go do your thing.
Mess this up.
So for this process, we're going to be using the small pilot bearing, and the reason for that is because of the input shaft that's in the transmission. So once he gets that installed, we're going to start getting the clutch aligned and tightened down, and then we're going to throw the transmission up in here. So Nick's truck is a 13 GMC Sierra, standard cab short bed, basically a work truck, so there's no real frills on this thing. He's lowered it a good amount, has the 22-inch replicas on it, and when we let it down, we'll show you a little bit of the interior and how he had to modify that. The truck also has a cam, long tubes, and some stainless works exhaust. Made about 330 rear wheel horsepower, and now it's going to make about 332. Alright, so we've got the Tremec up in here. We're about to throw some bell housing bolts at it. These are the only modifications that had to be made to the cross member. Just this little notch out. And then this will work with a polyurethane mount from Energy Suspension. And you had to drill this hole too, apparently. So Nick's starting some bolts in here so that we can make sure it pulls up to the bell housing tight. And then we'll get it sitting in there with the cross member in it. So the goal for tonight is to get the transmission secure in the truck. We're not going to look up any of the hydraulics, but we want to measure for a drive shaft so we can get that on order. And then throughout the rest of the week, Nick's going to finish the hydraulics, get the shifter in it, get the shift boot on it. So once Nick finishes dropping tools, we're going to put this thing on jack stands, measure for the drive shaft, and then I'll be able to show you what it looks like inside the truck. So Nick's under here throwing the cross member at it. We were just talking about the cross member has a hump in it, but it's not centered. So the trans runs straight down the middle of the truck. That's why you dropped something. Yeah. That's why the mount looks like it's off center, but it's really not. It's the hump in the cross member that's off center. So he's going to get these bolts tight. We'll throw some jack stands under this thing and measure for a drive shaft. Alright, so here is the transmission installed. Let's see, there's tons of room around the firewall, around the headers. It's actually a smaller transmission than what was in here, so see if I can get you some better light. Let's try without the light. Nope, no go. So yeah, there we go. So under the hood here, you can see the master cylinder, and then the line's going to run down to the slave. It fits in here pretty tight. So a little bit of background is you cannot get a manual truck this body style in the United States. The only place that they made them was in Mexico. Most of them were V6 trucks. So what Nick had to do was source some parts from Mexico, like the master cylinder and clutch pedal assembly, which fits in the truck. Kind of a pain when the dash is in it, but he was able to make some flag nuts and get everything to fit in there nice and tight, and it looks factory, which is great. The whole pedal mount assembly is plastic, and then the master cylinder goes through the firewall, has a reservoir, so it all looks factory, which is really nice. So this is going to be the shift lever and knob that he's using. And inside the truck here you can see he cut a nice hole in the carpet for the shifter to stick through, and then he's got a nice leather boot that's going to go over that. So on the passenger side of the column, there is no hole here where the shift lever would normally come through. This is also a piece that came from Mexico, but it really cleans up the install. And here in the floorboard, you can see the clutch pedal, brake pedal, and gas pedal. All looks factory. So, quick little background on Nick. Nick's been helping us out here at the shop for quite a few years. He used to come in after school every day, and after he graduated, he would come in and help us when he didn't have school. Go ahead, man, you can work. So he's been picking up a lot of stuff from us working here, and he's a great helper on the shop. So we want to help him get his truck the way he wants it, which is going to be one of the first manual swapped US trucks. So what we're doing now is we've got the e-brake set. We're going to set the truck down on these blocks so that the rear end is up in the truck, compressed, and we can go ahead and put the yoke in the transmission and measure our drive shaft length. So this is the shifter boot he's going to use. What we're going to do real quick is fit the shift handle in there and make sure that it fits good before he mounts this to the floor. In case he has to get an offset handle or something weird like that, we don't want to mount this and then have to move it later. Oh boy.
Oh!
Huh?
Dang!
That actually works out okay, doesn't it?
That's awesome. I can have my Coke
Your
right here.
drank?
My drink.
That's not too bad.
No.
Alright y'all, so that's going to do it for this video. Just wanted to kind of show you what Nick's doing with his truck. Once we get it up and running, we'll do a little bit more in-depth, tell you exactly where all the parts came from, and maybe even put a parts list together. He might sell this as a kit, so be on the lookout for that. In the meantime, don't forget, follow me on Instagram, follow Nick on Instagram.
At Nick Robinson 71.
Oh, see, he's good at that. Hopefully I'll be back in my shop working on some stuff soon. Stay tuned, and we'll see you next time.